Do you know what time it is? It's time for KP's Video News. Time for KP's Video News, y'all. It's time for the news. Time for the news. That's right, it's time for the news, y'all. KP's Video News. And I every day it's like you think that yesterday's stories was like, oh man, that was pretty crazy over there, and you think that it's all over, but it's every day, man. It seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse. However, you still have to look back at history and try to tie it into what's going on today. And with this story right here is going to do just that. And says the racism that pervaded the United States health system for years is even deadlier now. And it's a failed and corrupt response to COVID-19 is killing black businesses, black jobs, black votes, and black people. Deborah Gatewood was a black nurse who worked for 31 years in a Detroit hospital. Last weekend, she died from COVID-19 after being denied treatment by hospital doctors 4 times. This fatal neglect may seem like a shocking individual story, but is no surprise to those of us who have been tracking the many systematic inequities in healthcare for years. Just as one example, doctors routinely treat black people's pain and suffering far less seriously than that of other patients. It is a result of preposterous anti-science assumptions that hold about black people, which their medical schools and hospitals still have not forced them to unlearn. And as research studies have revealed, even with factories shut down all across the country, one thing America never stops manufacturing is widespread racial injustice. Every day, we see how unchecked racism has pervaded our health system for years, has become even deadlier now. The failed and corrupt response to COVID-19 is killing black businesses, black jobs, killing black votes, killing black people, much more than other communities. That is exactly why the black response and other channels for racial justice activism are so critical right now to ensure safety and justice for black people and all people who are being exploited and neglected during this crisis. Activists across the country are fighting on all fronts. We can change the outcomes of this crisis, but only if more people join the fight. The first step begins with shifting how people respond to what they see going on. This weekend, a statistic emerged to reinforce the now familiar theme. We learned that COVID-19 is killing younger black and Latino people at higher rates than younger people of other races in California. But what and who is really responsible for their deaths? Most of the news reporting and political punditry focused on blaming black people for their choices, whether than explicitly or implicitly, rather than blaming the systems that have taken any real choices away from us. Refreshingly, we are starting to see both everyday people and some media outlets reject and redirect the knee-jerk narrative of blaming black people for everything that goes wrong in this country, especially their own problems. That's because we have made measurable progress in reshaping the way so many people think about race. Thanks to the last decade of organizing and advocacy for racial justice, more people, including white people, are sensitive to racial disparities and embrace the idea that those disparities are the result of structural racism, not some inherent problem with black people themselves. It is the same movement for racial justice that has made pre-existing condition of racism in America a concerted focus for political leaders too. Anticipating the obvious, the Representative Ayanna Pressley, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and others demanded that the government track and release COVID-19 data on race, which has prompted the news media to take a racial disparity seriously. Senators Kamala Harris and Cory Booker raised the issue of police accountability when it comes to harassment of black people during the quarantine, because in the typical catch-22 of racism in the criminal justice system, black people are being profiled and harassed by police for wearing masks, even though governors have told them to. But also for not wearing masks, even though white people still do so freely. These issues might have easily been ignored by members of the Senate just years ago, but now have support. Racial justice movements over the last decade produced the change in Congress. If we keep pushing and building momentum, that change will create lasting progress for black communities and for society overall. This is a moment when the movement for racial justice can grow even stronger, forcing both political and corporate leaders to be accountable for addressing how the failed response to COVID-19 is exacerbating racism in America. The more we join together to remedy the injustice affecting people's lives, the more we change the rules for how society works and build a movement that prevents these injustices from arising in the first place. Of course, that includes fighting to ensure the right protective equipment gets to essential workers, a workforce with people of color at its core, and to ensure that essential workers get the hazard pay they deserve. But it also means ensuring black businesses get the same relief other business owners do, and that TurboTax stops charging them for services that are meant to be free. We've already forced Zoom to take responsibility for failing to make their platform safe for black professionals and other workers, but we must keep fighting. Black workers need to keep their health insurance even if their job ends, and continue to receive a universal basic income while unemployed. Our fights must also target our criminal justice system, where conditions are dire. Over the last several years, we have forced more and more jurisdictions across the country to reduce the use of money bail. More recently, we forced federal prisons to guarantee free phone calls to all inmates, as U.S. prisons see some of the worst COVID outbreaks in the world. But there are still far too many places where people who have not even been convicted of a crime are trapped in COVID-infested jails. An estimated 100,000 people will die simply because they cannot afford the unnecessary and unjust bail that is required to get out. While we continue to fight for the release of as many people as possible during the pandemic, we're also bailing vulnerable populations like black mothers out of jail now to ensure they are alive to care for their families and loved ones. Even as we take action to address the fight for the life of our democracy, the census and voting for the upcoming elections, conservatives are intent on preventing black people from voting. And the current crisis has given them a lot of opportunity to take our votes away. Nothing short of a nationwide vote by mail system will be adequate to protect our votes. And making sure you are counted in the census is the best way to make sure we all get the number of representatives in Congress we deserve and the investment in our communities that we deserve. With everyone's support, the black response to COVID-19 can continue to secure lasting systematic change in our country. In the last few years, the movement for racial justice has changed what's possible for America. We can do it again, working together to change the course of COVID-19, no matter how the federal government's response has failed us. And it has definitely failed. It has definitely failed us, very to the point of, the numbers are staggering, truly staggering. And having said that, this story right here, in coordinates with that, and you try to see, well, why are they doing what they're doing? And this story right here throws a whole different twist and a whole different light, brings a whole different light to it. And here's a man planning armed protests, arrested for pipe bombs. Colorado man arrested after federal agents allegedly discovered pipe bombs in his home, had also been helping organize an armed protest demanding the state lift its coronavirus restrictions. An official brief. It's an official brief on that. The FBI and ATF agents served search warrant Friday at the Loveland, Colorado home of Bradley Bunn, 53 years old. Agents discovered 4 pipe bombs and potential pipe bomb components inside the house, according to a press release from the U.S. Attorney for Colorado, Jason Dunn. It is not clear what, if anything, Bunn planned to do with the pipe bombs, the official said. Bunn came to the attention of law enforcement after using social media to encourage people to bring assault rifles to a planned May 1st rally at the Colorado Capitol building. In the days leading up to the protest, investigators discovered social media posts described as angry and aggressive, the official said. Soon after investigation received information that he was in possession of pipe bombs, Bomb was arrested before he could attend Friday's rally. Bomb technicians transported the devices to a gun range where they were rendered safe, according to the press release. Bond is scheduled to make an initial court appearance Monday afternoon. He has not entered a plea, and if convicted, he faces up to 10 years in the federal prison and a $250,000 fine. So it's a lot of psychos out there, and they're using this whole coronavirus thing as a means to basically try to make an attempt to overthrow the government. And it's, I mean, hey, let's be honest about what they're trying to do. These are paramilitary militia groups, hate groups, Nazis, and all kind of hate far right wing racists out there that want to try to do what they can to disrupt what's going on in the federal government. And the DC dunce, of course, is fanning the flames, and he doesn't even realize that, hey, they want to overthrow you, idiot. What an idiot, man. They got, when November comes, you got to get this idiot out of office. You got to get out there and vote at all costs. And here we go with another crook that ended up stealing money. It's Israeli American in Silicon Valley got $69 million for ventilators he never delivered. New York State paid $69 million to an Israeli American entrepreneur for ventilators he never delivered. Last month, the state paid Yaron Oren Pines $47,656 per ventilator for 1,450 ventilators, 3 times the normal asking price. The state suspended its usual checks of contractors as it scrambled to find ventilators to supply hospitals overwhelmed by the coronavirus pandemic. Oren Pines, a Silicon Valley-based electrical engineer, 3 days before the sale had tweeted his offer to sell ventilators in a reply to the tweet from the President DC Dunce urging major American vehicle manufacturers to make ventilators. Have someone call me urgent, Oren Pines said. Oren Pines has no known capability or expertise in making ventilators, according to the story. His social media shows expressions of support for Trump since at least 2015. He has not provided the ventilators, and New York State is attempting to recover the money. Oren Pines will not comment to the online news site. An unnamed official for the New York State government said the recommendation to deal with Oren Pines came directly from the White House Coronavirus Task Force. A spokeswoman for Vice President Mike Pence, who heads the task force, denied any involvement in making the recommendation. So here we go, folks. It's just more and more graft, more and more stealing going on, and these guys are just robbing the country blind right before your eyes. And rich people are getting richer. They're stealing and they're taking your money. Your hard-earned tax dollars are just disappearing into thin air, and it's absolutely nothing you can do about it. So it's like, okay, folks, wake up and realize what's going on here. You're being used. You're being used and abused and exterminated. I said it's time for the KP Video News. Time for the news. It's time for KP Video News. Peace.